That look. Yeah. All right. Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday. Now we really get to kick off a month after last week. So thanks for participating in some feedback last week as we celebrated just the milestones we've had around here and the growth we've seen around here. Moving into the rest of the Wednesdays we have, just talking about the topic of overcoming injury, just the reality of lives and life and what it offers. So trying to do an overview this week of the injuries that we can face just in general. So hopefully you had a chance to read through that, but just wanted to hit it again this morning and highlighting a few things. Obviously, the physical injuries that we all run into in the course of life. The recommendation was if you've been struggling with a physical injury for a month, go find a very talented professional, can help you figure out what to do to feel better. And around here, Bill's great at trying to help us modify things, have some rehab opportunities. But more so, talking about other types of injury that we can encounter. So this reality of if you come into a new situation in life you haven't been through before, there's going to be some new emotions you haven't encountered. And the suggestion that if you're talking about those emotions, it's much better than ignoring them. The easiest example I have is to cite grief, that if you don't talk about grief, it's relentless, starts to grow and starts to affect you in other areas. So new emotions, talk about them with somebody that you trust and is around you. But even the next one about the idea of relational injury that exists. Even the most loving people closest to you will have a moment where they are disappointing or they say something, and there's a chance for a relational injury or gap or something to occur. And if you're able to just come back to those and skills like we've talked about in the past of apologies or reconciliation, transparency about what's going on, you have a chance to close that gap and be better. If you ignore those, it just starts to add these extra little gaps that start to occur, and it grows over time. So the more you're on top of that, the better it goes. And finally, talking about just the mental injuries that exist and highlighting some of that. And really, when you find yourself using the words in a legitimate way, this is surreal, this is unbelievable, this is overwhelming. Those are signs that your own brain is telling you, like, I do not know what's going on. There is a gap, I can't function. And those are the times to be able to talk to somebody too. So we'll spend the month trying to highlight each of those areas more in depth, but just trying to give some initial markers that if you have an injury in those areas, it's important to deal with it. Because the reality is, if you have an injury, that's okay, that's normal. If it becomes a wound, all right, or becomes something chronic, then the quality of life and the well being starts to diminish. And so it's okay to have an injury. When you have a wound or something more gaping, it's important to deal with that, or else it starts to affect well being. So, some additional words to echo these aspects, and I thought it'd be helpful. I'll share some of the top injuries that show up in my office, but there was a website out there that talked about the top 5 injuries for adults that come into play. They are number one, sprains and strains, right? We've all been in that issue talking about how did we end up spraining or straining something? It just kind of happens. But that's number one. Number two, fractures. Nobody wants that. That sounds like maybe a bigger fall or something else. Contusions. Number four was cuts and lacerations. And number five, burns. As adults, we can all recognize moments like that where something got away from us and we ended up with some of those physical injuries. And I think most people are saying, like, when I have one of those, I'm going to get help, right? When one of those things happen, I'm seeking out some medical attention to figure it out. But these next 3 areas, wanted to cover those and just highlight them because I would say any one of these, you can go get help too. The top 3 emotional injuries that show up in my office: regret, shame, guilt. Those are the 3 biggest motivators for people to come on in and get some help because they have regret they can't overcome. They feel ashamed about something that is a part of who they think they are. And then there's guilt for something that they think they did and they want to find a way to get over it. So, emotional ones. The top 3 relational injuries that show up in the counseling office. Number 1, divorce. If you remember the months we talked about stress, divorce is like the top 2 or 3 stressor that people can face in life. Sudden death is another a relational crisis that kind of comes into play that shows up in the counseling office. And number 3, affairs are the third reason relationally that people show up in counseling. So major, unexpected, significant injuries that I don't want people to have turn into wounds or create gaps. And finally, the three top mental health injuries, kind of the suddenness of it, job loss or termination. People come in for counseling because it just is such a massive change to their life. Medical situations, right? Sudden diagnosis. And we're not just talking about things like if there's a chronic or sudden situation, maybe something has just been ongoing chronic pain. And finally, unexpected events, of course. So when you think about all of those aspects, it's a good moment to just highlight, like, we have this counseling benefit at the gym. It goes as I expect. It's underused, but that's the reality of even your own workplaces when they have employee assistance programs and free counseling. People underuse them, but it's a chance to figure out and say, hey, if you have an injury, and I'll say this throughout the day to all the classes, we have those minimum 4 counseling sessions you get access to, or someone in your family, or 5, and it's an opportunity to deal with injuries before they become wounds. So just a reminder there to step in. I originally had written these 2 questions for us this morning, and I just backed up and I said these are reflective questions to think about as you go through the course of the day, because it just happened again this week. And my original question was, what would you rather have, a physical injury or an emotional injury? And in reality, I just wanted people to contemplate that, because this week again, somebody said in my office, I'd rather this have been a physical situation where someone just hit me rather than suffer the chronic kind of emotional name calling and everything else. So it's just a reminder that once again, this month, it's a monthly issue where people would say, I'd rather be hit than be called that name. So no matter what age you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, trust me, this is something that comes into play. So words matter, and the way we treat other people does accumulate, even to the point where people would say, I'd rather have you hurt me in some kind of physical way, because at least I can heal. It seems like at least I can move through that injury and recover from it, than have to deal with the cuts that come emotionally from things. And then second, I was going to ask a question about how would you help someone resist the pressure to get over an injury too quickly, and realize that it's probably better to have people think about that and recognize that if you can avoid the cliches that people put in life and the pressures they add on you, it's just going to go a little bit easier. Because people who say just get over it, right, are judgmental. They can't deal with the pressure or injury you're presenting to them. And so it's just this recognition to give everybody a chance to think about saying it's okay if it takes time to overcome injury. If you rush it and you come back too soon, what happens on some of those physical injuries, right? It gets worse, or it gets magnified. Well, emotionally, relationally, mentally, it's kind of the same thing. If people are pressuring you to be quiet or get over it or don't talk about it, and you have all those cliches, even the other cliches are like time heals all wounds, right? I hate cliches, because it often adds to that pressure, confuses people, and it causes injuries to stay worse. So be thinking about those 2 things as you go through it. Maybe pay attention to what other people are saying around you, or recognizing how you can do some things different in your own life. But some final comments here about various injuries. I would say that a broken heart is a very real and visual thing, if you've ever been around anybody who suffered one of those emotional or mental injuries. You're able to see it in their gaze, you're able to see it in their presentation, you're able to see them just kind of be a little bit different than who they were before. So when you notice that change in somebody you care about or somebody distant, please be careful and give them time and patience and constant support, because it does take time to kind of recover from that. Second, I would say that the power you have as a caring person to give positive support and feedback helps people reframe things, right? All these types of injuries can isolate people, make them feel less than who they are, and really doubt themselves. But when you come along with your positive support, some words you have, some caring actions, it allows them to start to change what they think about themselves and the world around them. Maybe they start to think they're less alone. They start to think that there's opportunities for hope and healing and change, and you are a powerful agent to help with that. And then finally, just this reminder that if you ignore any of these pains, any of these injuries, It takes so much physical energy to ignore the mental, emotional, relational, or physical ones that it drains you in all areas of life. It's kind of like the hypothermia effect, that if you have an injury, all your energy is going to that injury. And in winter, when you're outside, right, what does the body say? Your heart and lungs and everything else is more important than your hands and feet, legs and arms. And you think, well, they're all important to me, but there's more important things. So all that energy just goes to that injury, and other things start to fall off. Other things start to crumble. So if you have an injury, deal with it. If you've been suffering with it for a month, that was the timeline I threw out in the email. Take advantage of the counseling benefit. Take advantage of someone offering to go to catch a meal with you. Be bold and raise that flag a little bit and say, hey, I'm struggling and here's what happened, and get some help. Because we expect injury. That's what we're talking about it this month. You're able to overcome injury. When it shifts into wounds and chronic things, then it starts to have this toll, and that's not what I want anybody to be in that situation. So it's going to be a good month to talk about ways to overcome it. We've got 3 more weeks, so we can do this nice cross-section and dive a little deeper, but today is this cross-section of reminding people of important thoughts that we expect injury, but you can deal with it so it doesn't become a deep wound. And those questions, please just reflect on them, think about them. Maybe there's a situation you recall in your own situation or somebody else, and just think about those people that rather choose physical injury than emotional, and see the power of those words. They can be harmful and difficult, but you also have a chance to be powerful with your words and bring healing to somebody with your care and compassion and the time you spend with them. So, all right, thanks for listening. Have a good day and a good workout.